Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Minnesota Mike back with you for another video. This is another one in my vlog series that I do through the Memphis Songwriters Association in conjunction with the blog that I write for them, talking all about songwriting and what has worked for various artists over the course of a handful of years, whether those songs have been hits or not. So this latest kick that I'm on is called Wouldn't It Be Nice? And it's continuing our discussion about nostalgia, but this time we are looking at narrators who very explicitly talk about how far removed they are from the thing that they are pining for. So we have thus far looked at Alabama Rain by Jim Croce. We also have looked at the song Fire in the Canyon by Fountains of Wayne, Till Summer Comes Around by Keith Urban, as well as Angel from Montgomery by John Prine, and Free Life by Dan Wilson. So this next time around, we are going to, or in this next video, we are going to chat about Boots of Spanish Leather. So Boots of Spanish Leather, like Free Life, is a song that I didn't start paying full attention to until long after the first time I heard it, but it is one of my favorite Bob Dylan tunes. The song is a conversation between the narrator and his girlfriend who is across the sea. She keeps asking him if she can send him anything from her travels, and he keeps insisting that all he wants is her safe return. Dylan's portrayal of this desire starts off pretty straightforward. Just carry yourself back to me unspoiled from across that lonesome old ocean. But then becomes increasingly more poetic the more forlorn he gets. He says, "Oh, but if I had the stars from the darkest night or the diamonds from the deepest ocean, I'd forsake them all for your sweet kiss, for that's all I wish to be owning." She becomes increasingly more insistent that he wants some sort of gift to remember her by. And in a later verse, he says, "I got a letter on a lonesome day. It was from her ship a sailing, saying, I don't know when I'll be coming back again. It depends on how I'm feeling." Realizing what's going on, he concludes by saying, "Well, if you, my dear, must think of that way, I'm sure your mind is roaming. I'm sure your heart is not with me, but to the country where you're going. So take heed of the western winds, take heed of the stormy weather. And yes, there's something you can send back to me, Spanish boots of Spanish leather." As someone whose ex helped him pick out feria boots made of Spanish leather, the last verse always hits me especially hard. But in this case, he wanted to have that memory of her and figured if that was the only way to be connected to her, so be it. And that build up is just phenomenal, right? Because he's saying, like, "Oh, well, no, I'll get to see you again, and that'll be good enough." But then once it's becoming clear that that's not the case, then he says, "Okay, fine, send me these Spanish boots of Spanish leather." Melodically, Boots of Spanish Leather is written in the key of G sharp major and is played with the capo on the first fret. The intro alternates between G sharp and C sharp, which is the 1 and the 4 chords, I should say, while the verses use F minor, C sharp, G sharp, F minor, D sharp, and G sharp, which is a that is a 7-4-1-7-5-1 pattern, which forms a perfect cadence ending the verse. The only instrument used on the song is an acoustic guitar, which is an appropriately sparse arrangement, allowing for the poetic words to shine through, along with, of course, the sadness in his voice in that vocal delivery. So don't come at me saying Dylan doesn't have a good voice. He always writes for his voice, and even though a lot of people cover his songs, that's just one of those things. It's very, very well done. Structurally, the song uses all verses. There are 9 of them. And since this is a conversation between two people, it's an interesting narrative choice to have an odd number of verses. This implies that eventually someone is doing more talking than the other person. And if you listen carefully, there are 3 back and forth verses, accounting for 6 verses, while the last 3 verses are the narrator's response to his significant other staying overseas. In other words, she speaks for 3 verses, at least recounting that last letter that he got, right? But she speaks for 3 verses, and he speaks for 6, 3 in response to her and 3 in response to her leaving and her silence. Like I said, it's a fascinating narrative device for this particular song. So Boots of Spanish Leather is embedded below. You can listen. Like I said, it's just one of my absolute favorites, and a little bit of an outlier on the times they're changing as a love song rather than a political song. But nobody puts Dylan in a corner. So that is that. Happy listening, happy writing. I'm Minnesota Mike. Be sure to check out all my other blogs, all my other vlogs. The vlogs can be found right here on YouTube, and the blogs can be found on the Memphis Songwriters Association website. Thank you so much.